you like nuclear power, inappropriate waste management, bombing the locals, choo-choo trains, then boy do I have a video for you, because today we're doing all that and more. In my last adventure, I beat this Atom Smasher robot to death with a BBC, at the end of which, my consciousness was redirected here. Skipping what? And that's Ada, my new robot overlord. At least she sounds hot, and she's given me 3 simple missions. Industrialize, pollute, and appease. Luckily, we have our own motives beyond pleasing that masochist, and that is to produce enough power to go back to cyberpunk. To achieve this, we're gonna need to use this structure known as the space elevator. Basically, you shoot loads of special materials into the stratosphere, and in return, Ada lets me unlock bigger, faster, and sexier toys to industrialize the planet with the eventual goal of nuclear. But for now, let me take you back to where this nightmare started. Immediately, I was ripping every plant, bush, and rogue piece of grass out of the ground like some coked up landscaper before I made my way to some nearby iron. During that trip, I experienced what might just be the best video game movement system since Titanfall. Whee! As we all know, iron is an important resource. It's the backbone of industry, but more importantly, it's what's in our cereal. And according to Hot Robot Lady, I was going to need a lot of it, and gather a lot of it I did. Or so I thought. Turns out, in a game about automation, you actually have tools for automation. So gentlemen, behold! My Stevensons. These eager little engineers would now make my chisel redundant. They focused on the mining, and I did the crafting. My robot overlords didn't send me down here with much, so upgrading our hub was first on the agenda. This was done by submitting materials, pressing this little button, and boy, do I love buttons. I was on it like a Minecraft YouTuber in a miner's DMs, and before long, I unlocked a smelter to smelt, constructor to construct, and conveyor belts to belt. This was all we needed to automate. Was it fast? No. Was it automatic? Kind of. You see, at this stage, our only power source are these shit-ass biomass burners, which are great if you enjoy the thrilling gameplay loop of yank bush and feed bush into hole. The closest thing this game has to offer to medieval peasant simulator. But this game is about automation, and if you approach it without removing manual from your vocabulary, you're more out of place than the 45 to 54-year-old demographic who sum up on their way to my last video. Anyway, after finalizing the hub upgrades, I got myself a chainsaw to gather a matric gaslet of leaves and wood, and more importantly, to send a message to the wildlife. With the biomass burners purring louder than it was time to think bigger, and by bigger, I mean concrete. Because if you want access to organized building, you're gonna need enough concrete to smother a small nation. Or Paris. Preferably Paris, actually. So I slapped down 2 mining and refining operations and got those pumping so I could create some real production lines. Or at least, soon I could, because shit was slow. And with nothing left to do but wait, I took to exploration. I found these crash sites with free loot around them and a hard drive inside. These hard drives get fed to Mommy Ada, and she rewards it with alternate recipes. Very nice. SEAL Team Stevenson were deployed onto this partially blocked Caterium node, and thanks to this gathered Caterium, I unlocked this thingamajig. And thingamajig in hand, I discovered quartz, which again, my Stevensons eagerly chewed into, and thus unlocked me the greatest inventions in sliced bread. The Blade Runners. These would let me run faster, jump higher, and do tricks around the local wildlife. Okay, maybe not. But fear not, for my concrete empire had at this point produced all of the concrete I was gonna need, and I could begin work on my first real production line, reinforced plates. I used Mommy Ada's alternate recipes, stitch plates, and iron wire, which rendered this factory a literal walk in the park. Along with this came Logistics Mark II, meaning faster belts, more money, and significantly less bitches. And from there, the space elevator was constructed. However, I was still gonna need rotors to reach phase 2, and oh boy, are rotors a nightmare of a wreck. And it's done. You combine these suckers in an assembler and they spit out smart platings. But like most things, they're fucking slow. So in the meantime, I got started on copper sheets and... Fuck. I slapped on even more biomass burners and stuffed them with the last bit of solid biofuel I had. I finished up the copper sheet production and sent my plates skyward. Unfortunately, coal generators need rotors, and because I just used all mine to send them to my overlords, I instead unlocked a brand new toy, the Xeno Basher, which, according to Ada, not only electrocutes things, but smacks and electrocutes things. Shittest sales pitch since EA's quote, surprise mechanics, unquote, but whatever. Armed with this fancy bug whacker, I spelunked down a nearby cave filled to the brim with these adorable cats. In reality, these are spiders, but I made them look like this. You're welcome, arachnophobes. Or are you? I also found something called SAM, which the Navy Steves were immediately deployed to. Ada mentioned something about quantum mechanics and the iCloud. I'm not sure what she was smoking, but I brought some of it back to base. And my rotor supply was now sufficient for coal power. I skedaddled my way down and I got to work. Coal power can be tricky. It's the first time you're working with both solids and fluids, but hey, I've been doing that since I was a baby, if you know what I'm saying. And when all was said and done, this little setup right here would be enough to produce 600 fully automated megawatts of power. Coal also meant steel, and steel meant boom toys. I boomed the boulder blocking the old Caterium node, automated quickwire, upgraded my power poles, did more exploration, unlocked more alternate recipes, research blueprints to automate building. I built this copy-paste steel plant, a smelter array, and that's it. Because I had to tackle my biggest beast yet, namely a modular frame factory. This wasn't anything crazy, but it's very much the point of the game where the scale of factories starts growing exponentially. Just look at this big old bitch.
That's a huge bitch!
Fresh off the high of wrangling that little beast into submission, I decided to reward myself with even more brain-melting production. I barely got started giving my steel setup some TLC before the power grid staged a violent coup. Lights out, everything dead. Even me. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, was obvious. My 600 fully automatic megawatts were not enough.
The planet is going to pay for this when I bury it in radioactive waste.
I decoupled half the steel factory, slapped down and fed another 8 generators, bringing me to 1200 megawatts. But that still wasn't going to be enough. I unlocked better miners to squeeze even more coal out of my nodes and slapped on another 16 generators, bringing me to a glorious grand total of 32. That is 2400 megawatts, enough to power about 5 million blenders in real life. Go suck on that. As you may be surprised to hear, my brain was pretty fried at this point, and so I treated myself to another logistical nightmare, a motor factory. I belted the materials in from afar, got to building, and that was that. And while that was that, I came to another fucking realization. I had still not automated encased beams at all. This wasn't ideal since these are soon to be very important, but I got to work. I expanded the bus to drag in more resources, got to building, and right as I was laying down the last couple machines, disaster struck. And not in the form of power going out this time. You see, I'd been planning to use the encased pipes alternate recipe, which I did not have. I rescanned every single hard drive I had. Nothing. I snatched uno, dos, and tres hard drives from the swamp. Nothing. I explored south and... thank God for that. Surely I learned from this mistake. Right, guys? Right? I finished her up, and 20 beams per minute was a go. And after a while longer of watching number go up, my incredibly tidy and definitely fully automatic setups had spat out all the required space elevator parts. I shipped them into the sky, ate them owned in binary, and phase 2 was done. To kick Act 3 off, I decided to completely ignore every single new unlock that I just worked my ass off for, and instead try out the iCloud. You know, something I've had access to for the past 10 hours. Don't question it, motherfucker. But I finally hooked something up to it, namely the fruits of my steel production. Beams, pipes, motors, and encased beams were now in my back pocket at all times. This was revolutionary. The only problem was that each of these dimensional depots, as they're called, needed a Mercer sphere. That's these guys, by the way. I'd collected a few of them already, but after these 4 depot deployments, I was down to my last one. And what makes it even more annoying is that Mercer spheres are often less than pleasant to collect. The solution was clear, gentlemen. Jetpack. For the jetpack, we need oil. And oh boy, did I get oil. Eliminate the locals. Yeah! Extract and refine the oil. Woo! Sink the fucking byproducts. Yeah! But the byproducts could have a better purpose than to just be sunk. Back to the hub. Yeah! Unlock fluid packaging, baby! Redo the fucking oil. And at last, package fuel, baby. The thing about fuel is, it's liquid gold. It's better than sex, allegedly. Not that I'd know. It's also what the jetpack runs on. So, after filling my dirty pockets and in with all the fuel I could fit, I returned to the hub once more and unlocked the jetpack. And oh boy, was she a beauty. I fueled her up and I set on out. Like a caffeinated mosquito, I crossed canyons, stole slugs, did drugs, stole sloops, fucked your mom, grabbed spheres, and even bombed the natives. I guess the taste of oil turned me more American than I would have liked. And half an hour of this later, I came up with slugs, hard drives, 18 spheres, and 5 sloops. Not a bad haul at all. And don't worry, gentlemen, we're gonna get more into what sloops can do soon. When I return, you better believe I put those spheres to use, however. Anything and everything I could think to link to the iCloud got linked to the iCloud. Plastic, rubber, fuel, modular frames, reinforced plates, wire, cable, concrete, and quickwire. I even redid my iron rod and plate production and linked those as well. Life was going well, ladies. So much so that I gave my base of operations a makeover. Look at that. Pretty sexy, right? The big red button of the hub called my name once more, so I pressed it not 1 time, not 3 times, but 2 times. One for unlocking Logistics Mark IV, which again means faster belts, more money, significantly less bitches. And another for unlocking manufacturing. Unlocking the manufacturer, it kind of puts you in the big leagues. It's as if the devs said, oh, you thought this game was hard already? And then they decided to spin you around, piss in your eyes, and shoot your cat. This facility has 4 goddamn holes. On the bright side, for the first factory on the agenda, we're only gonna need 3 of them. This is easily gonna be the largest build so far, and in honor of that, I decided to not just give it a time lapse, but possibly the best time lapse ever recorded in YouTube history. Pretty good, right? The factory itself actually turned out really nice, as you can see. If I can't use Fix-It Cam, you can be damn sure I'll use the photo mode dolly. Anyway, this little devil right here spits out 5 computers per minute. These were only going to be used for filling the iCloud and generating coupons, so 5 was not going to be a number to scoff at. And although this computer factory was relatively nearby, it was still a fair ways from home. But that's nothing a little hyper cannon can't solve, baby. Whee! And of course, one to take me back. Whee! Yeah! We also needed to tackle a whole different beast. Heavy modular frames. The raw resources needed for these, being coal, limestone, and iron, were all sucked dry near our home, so again, we had to expand. I set up Hell Yeah Simulator as a transportation mode. Basically, shoot out of this tube, strafe to this power line, and catch yourself with a thingamajig. Pretty fucking sweet. What wasn't sweet was the logistical side of things. Coal was right there, but iron and limestone, they were gonna be tricky. Not because they were far away, but because they were about 200 meters straight down. And for any Americans out there, that's about 8,000 inches. We could run a ramp down, we could run a series of lifts, but that would have been too easy. I went for the much cooler route of elevator floor holes. As long as you're snapping from a floor hole to a floor hole, they have infinite range. What doesn't have infinite range is your build gun. No fear, my queers. Float in the air with the jetpack, connect the two, then came the actual factory, and oh boy, was she a lot to manage. Just look at this flowchart. I know, scarier than that spider earlier that probably no one thought was funny except for me. Luckily, I managed to keep everything neat, other than the few rogue belts I ran under the platform, but no one's gonna know about those. And 1 cup of coffee and about 3 headaches later, she was done. I'd like for you to look at this monstrosity and try to guess just how many heavy modular frames this thing produces. 2. All this for 2 frames. But I wasn't gonna complain. This is literally one of the most fun parts of the game. The world is quite literally your oyster. You're doing big production lines, bigger lines of coke, roaring through the sky, and it all left me wanting more. It was time to unleash my semi-automatic space elevator productions on the world once more. I slapped on assemblers for smart plating, same for versatile framework, grabbed some needed items out of my machines, and... This was bad. Really bad. You see, me taking these items out had kicked my idle factories back into full swing, and my 32 coal generators, producing 2400 megawatts, enough to power 5 million blenders, were not enough for my max draw of 3400 megawatts. I think the way it works is that when you flick the fuse back on, everything surges, meaning I would have to detach a gigawatt of power, which wasn't gonna fucking happen. The solution, gentlemen? Build an entirely new coal plant, get it running with biomass burners, and only when it's fully saturated would I be able to tie it back to the main grid. Simple, right? It was a disaster, okay? I somehow tripped the breaker more times than my dad tripped over child support payments. To make matters worse, for some reason, the game did not see this as water, so my last row of extractors ended up looking a bit like a British smile. On top of that, the entire 32 generator setup was fed by 1 manifold because I'm stupid, meaning it was gonna take a while to saturate. While waiting for that, I took to sloop hunting. I found a few, I shoved them into Ada's USB port, and I unlocked alien power. I strapped this into the new grid, attached the new to the old, and praise baby Jesus, it worked. 64 coal generators, gentlemen, which should have been 4,800 megawatts, but thanks to the alien juicer, we were in reality pushing 5,800, more than enough. For now. With that out of the way, I could continue yoinking items and cramming them into my beautiful project assembly part assemblers. Say that 3 times fast. What followed was mostly just waiting around, except it fucking wasn't. I unlocked everything I'd been ignoring up until now, including...
Choo-choo, mother...
That's right, baby. Trains. I took to the good old blueprint designer and constructed a modular railway system and immediately put it to use. Building railways and junctions with absolutely zero purpose. Just spots I thought trains might pass through one day. I may have gotten a little carried away with this because after getting all of my inches deep in rail networks, my project assembly part assemblers were all done. I sent my overlords the goods, and in return, I unlocked a whole bunch of new stuff. First on the list, aluminum. Before we actually go into aluminum, if you pronounce it aluminium, find the power button to the device you're watching this on and hold it down until your screen goes black. Thank you. I laid down the tracks to what I thought would be a quick 30-minute aluminium factory. In reality, this took me 4 fucking hours. Why? Well, first of all, the bauxite is like 3 kilometers in the fucking sky. No problem for a man of my talents though, just jump, attach the lift, fall in place before splattering. I took a trick out of the Heavy Modular Frame Factory's book and I ran all the belts and all the pipes under the floors. Very clean. So how the fuck did this take me 4 hours? Well, my master aluminum plan relied on these 2 little alternate recipes called sloppy alumina and pure aluminum ingots. The sloppy was easy. I got that from your mom and I got that from a hard drive right away. Pure aluminum, however, not so much. I scanned and I rescanned every last one of my drives. Nothing. Grabbed, scanned, and rescanned even more hard drives. Nothing. I set out on a journey granting me 15 brand new hard drives for fucking nothing! This was not set. Oh my god. Finally.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I mean, we got aluminum. And with that, I could set my sights on the good stuff. Rocket fuel. But to get there, I needed advanced aluminum production, which meant I needed 50 radio control units, which meant unlocking control system development, which meant, you guessed it, an assload of fucking work. Radio control units require aluminum casings, crystal oscillators, and computers. I already had computers and casings, but oscillators? Hadn't even touched them. And I didn't need that many radio control units, which meant I didn't need that many oscillators, just 1 per minute. So naturally, I decided to build a factory that would produce fucking 10 of them. And before tackling that, I laid some rails, built this sick-ass railway setup, this intersection, and again, fuck you. To aid with the oscillators, I went blueprint crazy. I'm talking modular constructors, modular assemblers, modular manufacturers, whole catalog, but that wasn't gonna save me. You see, this godforsaken factory blessed me with sushi belts not 1 time, not 2 times, but 3 times. It's the second worst thing that can happen to a man right behind being kicked in the balls, okay? So when all was said and done, I finished the construction with a spaghetti avalanche of belts under the floor, feeding into a single manufacturer. Very fitting. Radio control units were made, advanced aluminum production was unlocked, meaning there was nothing standing between me and rocket fuel. The recipe is simple. It's just oil, coal, sulfur, and nitrogen gas. The problem? These resources are scattered all over the map, except for one glorious spot in the northern desert. I extended the rails once more, dragged in the coal, belted the sulfur, pressurized the gas, fucked your dad, found a suitable location for the factory, and I got to work. See? Actually, a kind of good time lapse this time. The production itself was easy. It's just 5 refineries and 8 blenders to make 600 rocket fuel per minute. The real nightmare is the fuel generators. Oh god, the fuel generators. Rocket fuel has a burn rate of 4.17 per minute, meaning this 600 was enough to run 144 fuel generators. Fuel generators are massive. Fuel generators are expensive. Fuel generators made me want to uninstall the game. The time lapse makes it look like it took no time at all. In real time, yeah, in real time, it sucked. While here, I slooped one of the blenders. That's the other thing summer sloops can do, by the way. They can juice your power grid and double the production of a machine, meaning we had access to 150 extra rocket fuel per minute. The plan was to package these and use them for my jetpack and drones, which I also unlocked. But it couldn't be that easy. Rocket fuel requires fluid canisters, which are made from aluminum. No problem. I redirected some of the ingots, hooked a train up to deliver the canisters, and all was well, right? After analyzing the flow of canisters, I noticed I wasn't pulling the intended 75 per minute. According to math, my aluminum factory was producing 432 ingots per minute. I was trying to use 435. So what did I do? Throttle my sheet or casing production slightly? Wrong again, fucko. I retuned the clock speeds on everything and overclocked the coal and bauxite miners so they'd produce an additional 3.33 ore per minute. Now, let's talk nuclear, because as you may remember, nuclear power is kind of the point of the video, and at this point in time, I had everything I needed, except for one little thing known as supercomputers. You remember the computer factory that was a big deal a little while ago? Imagine that, but super. So here's the plan. Extend our rail network, again. I know, it's becoming a bit old, isn't it? Go down this cave with radioactive spiders, steal their caterium, belt and smelt that caterium, and then continue to belt it to the train station. Next, cover a lake with concrete, place miners on copper nodes, fucking die, I guess, what the fuck? Go back, carpet bomb the natives, and turn the lake into an industrial smelter, and belt it to the train station. Next, plastic. I only needed about 300 plastic per minute. No problem, just tap some oil nodes and make the plastic, right? Are you guys ever gonna be fucking right? I had the brilliant idea of abusing all the shiny alternate recipes I unlocked thanks to pure aluminum being a dick, and thus I built a factory that would drink 520 crude oil per minute, and in return, it would spit out 780 plastic. And 780 rubber. If you take this production chain and you put it into a factory planner, it probably looks pretty easy. Spoiler alert, It's a nightmare. By far the hardest thing I have built and will build. First of all, you need 1400 water to feed 14 blenders. Easy, just split it in 2 full and then 1 partially filled pipe and run them similarly to how you feed coal generators. And you're right, that is easy. Is that what I did? Hell no. I went for spectacle, gentlemen. 1 pipe per blender, each with its dedicated water extractor. And while it looks badass, you could not pay me enough money to do this again. But that's not all. You see, the setup relies on the recycled plastic and rubber recipes. Basically, combine plastic with fuel, get rubber, and vice versa. The thing is, these 48 refineries produce about 1400 of each item. You need to loop part of this back into the system, and the remaining 780 is yours to keep. I was scratching my head, forgetting what goes where, and even what my own name was. This build, which looked simple at first, took me about 5 hours of pipe work and troubleshooting, but when I saw both conveyor belts run 780 per minute, let's just say a 4th type of mystery fluid entered the build. I'm talking about cut. Alright, now back on track, because we're doing this for supercomputers, remember? I decided on a spot for them, made a train, and I gave it a very in-depth timetable, and off it went as I began building. After the train hadn't delivered its resources for a suspicious amount of time, I checked my map and saw it had gotten stuck. Upon closer inspection, it turned out the train had encountered some signaling problem. I redid the immediate signals, and nothing. I manually drove it back, manually unloaded it, and off it went again, until it once again got stuck with the same fucking error. I rebuilt intersection after intersection. I redid signals after signals. I even took the whole train apart and rebuilt it in different locations to see where the fault lied. I spent literal hours troubleshooting and rebuilding, just to find out, oh my fucking god, I've built the train station in the wrong direction. Anyway, since most of the processing was done before the train picks the items up, the actual factory ended up kinda small. I mainly used the blueprints from the RCU factory, so what took the longest time was actually the totally organized and definitely not spaghetti belt work under the floor, and this was producing 4 whole supercomputers per minute. Sorry. And a short while later, nuclear power was unlocked. My nuclear power ambitions were immediately set high, and I'm not talking 80 reactors, not 90, but 100 reactors. Divided by 3. Minus 3. That's right, gentlemen. We were gonna build and run 30 nuclear power plants. And I know the way I worded that made it sound, well, not impressive at all. But to run these 30 reactors, we are gonna need to bring in 3,000 raw resources every single minute. This is gonna need to be processed across 160 machines. And that is not even to mention the 8,000 cubic meters of water we're gonna need every single minute. We're gonna need to drag in sulfur, iron, caterium, limestone, and water. We bring all of this in and we process it. We still didn't have any uranium, however, but that is what all the packaged rocket fuel is for, baby. Basically, this drone station here imports the packaged fuel, while these 2 stations take the fuel and use it to pick up uranium from here and from here. This finishes the ingredient production. They then get fed into freight cars, ready to be shipped. But ready to be shipped to where? Shipped to here, a waterfall out by the edge of the map. The nuclear power plant was to be built on 3 shelves, each with 10 nuclear reactors. Unfortunately, with how much we've built in the save, running time lapses was cooking my frame rate beyond belief. So I can't give you a true scale of how much pain this actually was, but trust me, it was a fucking pain, okay? And the waste solution? Well, you saw it in the intro. A metric ass load of industrial storage containers. Enough of them for the power plant to run for 300 hours without issue. That, however, is an issue we don't need to tackle, because that brings us to now. 120,000 megawatts of power. Finally, we have the bandwidth to power up Mikoshi and return to Cyberpunk.
You forgot about his father?
Stevenson? Stevenson!